Hello, everybody. This is James from the Timur podcast, and today I've got another faction overview for the incredible mod Tsardoms Total War, but the 1448 campaign, Fall of Constantinople in particular. And this is a mod developed in the last year or so, although I think they were working on it much longer than that. But it's a mod for Medieval 2 Total War, my favorite video game, a great historical game. So all details for the mod and also the game where you can get that are in the description below. So today I wanted to take a look at one of the German factions, the Duchy of Bavaria, so you can see them up in here in the Bavarian area. This is an interesting faction. They start pretty isolated and pretty small, but there are lots of opportunities for them. So let's get right into this. The Duchy of Bavaria, it is 1448 AD. You start with 2 settlements. You're a Catholic faction. You have no allies and you have no enemies. So definitely lots of diplomatic possibilities there. Strengths possess the typically strong units of other Holy Roman Empire states. That's very true. The Germans, as always, just have a very robust military. Weaknesses, though, lack of native archers and rival duchies. Yes, you only start with 2 factions. You are surrounded by other Holy Roman Empire states, and lack of native archers. Yeah, the Germans are not known for their archers, per se, but you have other units that can make up for that. Yeah, so let's see, Dismounted Bavarian Knights is one of the units, one of my favorite units. We'll take a look at them in the second half of the video. Ways to win. So, playing the long campaign or expansionism, you have to hold 30 regions, including all of these, which, as you can imagine, are kind of just all or most of the German regions. And then for short campaign, you only have to hold 12 regions, including a bunch of the same, but you also have to eliminate the Archduchy of Austria. So we're going to switch that up there. As for the historical background, I'm going to go through this real quick in case you want to pause. But basically, Bavaria is not as strong as they used to be. There's been a lot of wars in the last century, a lot of splitting between Bavarian realms. They're still strong, and they have a lot of potential, but they're not as much of a force as they were maybe 100 years ago or so. So let's jump into the campaign map and see the starting situation. Alright, so this is the screen you see when you begin your Bavarian campaign. Again, there is more historical background as well as a welcome to the mod, so if you want to read that. I want to say it's mostly the same as what's on the main menu though. So we'll close that out. You do get a notice about Gothic plate armor and just some background, because a lot of your units are going to be using this incredible Gothic plate armor. And then the normal scripts, garrison script, I've gone over these before, historical campaign path, hardcore gameplay, blah blah blah. Alright, so you can see that this is pretty much all you start with. Let's look at the diplomacy first. You have 2 regions controlled. They're both cities. You can see here on the map the regions you need to hold in order to meet the victory conditions. Diplomacy, yeah, you are at war with no one. You have no allies as well. And then if we look at the Pope here, you're kind of just in a neutral standing, not great, not terrible. There's so many Catholic factions in this mod. I love it. Okay, so your capital is Munich, and this is the starting army. And you'll notice that you begin with quite a few excellent troops. We'll go over the troops in the second half of the video, but yeah, a nice half-stack army there, as well as a couple family members dotted around here. Let's look at our faction leader, Duke Albrecht III the Pious. Pretty good stats there. Some nice traits and whatnot. And oh, you'll also see that you can recruit a lot of great units right off the bat, which is nice. The military potential of Bavaria is still there, very much so. Let's look at our faction heir? I don't see him. Anyway, you get an assassin, a spy, a couple priests and whatnot, a diplomat, kind of standard. And then over here you have a smaller town, which is much smaller, only 200 or 2,000 people, whereas Munich has 15,000. So that's pretty much all you start with. It's not great, but it's got some potential, like I've said about 300 times now. So if we turn off the fog of war and just ignore the loud clanking of my fingers on the keyboard. Okay, so let's look. First thing you might notice is there's a rebel army. Henrik the, what is that, 16th the Rich. He's over here right in the middle of your territory, so you might want to take him out. If we look at what he has, it's not a great military, but it's something that's gonna be annoying. So let's talk about early expansion. The nice thing about the Bavarians is you do start with a lot of rebel territory, independent states around you that you can attack. The bad news is a lot of that is pretty powerful. So if you look over here at Augsburg, let's just send a diplomat over there, see if we can see inside. Yeah, that is a pretty formidable army holding that city. So that could be a bit of a fight. And then up here as well in Ingolstadt, again, another pretty formidable army. They've got handgunners, crossbowmen, polearms, and Bavarian knights as well. So you have plenty around you to expand into, and up here in Nuremberg, but this is going to be difficult. And not just that, but there are also smaller settlements with full stack armies around. Probably the best bet would be down here in Salzburg, which only has about a half stack. That could be more doable. But then, of course, that puts you right next to the Austrians. I mean, you do share a border already, but that will take away their expansion possibilities. So you got to be careful with that. But as you can see, Germany is pretty divided. There are several different factions, several different independent nations. And of course I say Germany, but there is really no concept of Germany at this point. The Holy Roman Empire is a collection, and that's a pretty liberal term right there, a collection of various states and whatnot. So looking at your neighbors next, to the northeast we have the Bohemians, and they start with a larger kingdom than you by one, and they have a bigger military than you, slightly, at the beginning. Now, Prague is a very rich settlement, so maybe you might want to expand against the Bohemians. You have been fighting them in the last couple of decades with the various Hussite wars. And the nice thing is since they are Hussite, the Pope will not get angry at you if you attack them. In fact, he might welcome it, and you might be able to call a crusade. Actually, if we look at what, yeah, Prague is #1. You can call a crusade. I probably can't right now. Yeah, it was denied. But if you build up enough rapport with the Pope, then that is a real possibility. To the west, you have another German faction, which is about as powerful as you. They also start with 2 kingdoms, and this is the County of Württemberg, or something along those lines. So they are... I wonder, let's take a look at whether or not they like us. I don't remember. Bohemians, yeah, they hate us. The Austrians, oh, we're actually on good standing with the Austrians. And Württemberg, oh, they don't like us either. The Swiss sort of like us. So they are a potential enemy or a potential ally. It really kind of depends. In all of my campaigns, I've never really seen Württemberg expand at all. They usually just kind of turtle up in these 2 settlements. Every once in a while, they'll try and take Augsburg. But from my experience, they typically don't do much. So definitely watch out for them, but they shouldn't be as much of a threat as you would think, perhaps. Down to the west, though, are the Swiss. And the Swiss do like to expand in this mod quite a bit. They have somewhat of a linear expansion path, usually by first taking Zurich, then Constance, and then kind of the rest of Germany is open to them. The Swiss have a very good military. So definitely look out for them. Maybe an alliance would work with them. It's kind of up to you. And to the south and to the east are probably your biggest potential enemies, and that is the Austrians. So the Austrians control pretty much this whole range of Alps with Innsbruck and Trient down here, and plenty of cities over here, including, of course, Vienna. They start with 9 settlements, I believe, some full stack armies, and they're a very powerful faction. So be careful with the Austrians. What might be a good idea is to make alliances with Austria's traditional, or maybe not traditional, but other potential enemies of the Austrians. So maybe an alliance with Hungary, maybe an alliance with Venice. Those could be good moves. And then the only other faction I'll mention is Milan down here. They start a bit of a ways away from you, but sometimes they do like to push through the Alps. Or maybe they could be a good ally against the Swiss if you want to take out the Swiss. It's kind of open to you. You are sort of here in the corner of the map, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of factions and a lot of potential territories. So I think that pretty much covers it. Let's see if there are any... this is a unique landmark, which is pretty neat. So that's in Munich. The only other thing I'll say is, it may be hard to tell now, but Munich, Augsburg, and Nuremberg are incredible cities, and when you build them up, they can earn you well over 4,000 gold or florins every turn. So just those 3 cities alone can net you a huge economy. And then another rich settlement, of course, is Vienna. Vienna is a very powerful and rich settlement. And then up here, Prague is also incredibly rich. So that's something to look out for. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with my Bavarian campaign. I'll show you it later. But let's head over to the battle map to take a look at Bavaria's units. Alright, so here we are on the battle map with the Bavarian units, and I'm probably going to have to do this twice because there are so many units available to Bavaria, so I might have to jump out and get a whole nother roster. But let's start with this. So first, of course, we have the General's Bodyguard, or the Ducal Bodyguard, and as you can see, this is that Gothic plate armor that we were talking about earlier. These guys just look like tanks. You can tell right off the bat that they're going to be a pain to take out. So let's take a look at their stats. Attack of 4 is okay in the melee. I believe it's armor piercing though, which is great. But the big thing we want to be concerned about is that charge bonus of 14, which is devastating for heavy cavalry. And you get these guys every time you have a general or a family member. So it's just free elite heavy cavalry. Total defense is 37, which is insane. 26 of that being armor, 8 of that being defense skill, and 3 shield. So again, like we were saying earlier, these guys are just tanks. The tanks of the high medieval age. And their abilities inspire nearby troops, excellent morale, and powerful charge. So yeah, just there's nothing bad about these guys. I mean, maybe you could say they don't have great stamina, just normal stamina, but with heavy cavalry, that's to be expected. So let's move on to kind of our infantry now. So your lowest unit are peasants, as can be expected. And as peasants, they're not the worst. They're certainly a terrible, terrible unit. But if we actually look at their stats, 1 attack, yes, terrible. Charge bonus of 3 is actually okay for peasants. Total defense of 3, anything will kill them, anything and everything. But their abilities, expert at hiding in woods, bonus fighting cavalry, effective against armor, and combat bonus in woods. So you can actually get a couple of kills even against better units with these dudes. They are peasants though, so poor morale. They will break very easily, and they're also area of recruitment units, only recruitable in Germany or Austrian regions. But they're cheap. They're peasants. That's all to be expected. They are there to possibly hold garrisons, and other than that, be cannon fodder. So moving on to kind of units you'll typically actually be using in combat, we have the Berg Spearmen, and this is your kind of your lowest militia unit, but they're actually halfway decent. So if we look at their stats, attack of 2, charge bonus of 2, yeah, that's terrible, but spearmen are just meant to hold the line. Total defense of 13, 9 of that being the shield. That means they're actually going to be able to survive arrow fire, as long as it's not flanking them. And yeah, they'll be able to hold the line for a little while. They're not, again, they're still militia units, so they're not the best, but they can form a Schildtrum, bonus fighting against cavalry, and combat bonus in woods. And they have free upkeep too, so not bad at all. One other thing of note though is this too is a area of recruitment unit, so they are recruitable in German, Austrian, and Swiss regions. But pretty okay unit, just very standard. So let's move on to a unit that, is also militia grade, but a little bit better. So Berg Halberdiers, these are kind of an early pole arm unit, and I love these guys. They're not elite by any means, but for being a militia early unit game, they are excellent. So a 5 attack and charge bonus of 4. If they charge in, that's 9. That's a 9 attack. That's pretty deadly. Total defense of 12. That's a little low, but 7 of that is armor, which is very good. They don't have shields because they are pole arm units, but effective against armor and bonus fighting cavalry. So these guys can actually, they can't form a halberd wall, but they can charge in and be devastating, even in the early game, which is just great. And they look awesome too. I love the little Bavarian coat of arms on their chest plates. Yeah, these guys, I'm a big fan of these guys. Now let's move on to kind of where your infantry will be upgrading from militia tier to actually good units, if not great. So we have kind of a standard unit in a lot of Western factions, and that is the Pavis Spearmen. They're just a huge upgrade over your Berg Spearmen, and I do like these guys. So attack of 4, charge bonus of 4. For Spearmen, that's actually halfway decent. But again, with Spearmen, it's all about the defense, and these guys have a high defense. 21, 11 being armor, 10 being shield. So they will hold the line for a while. And not only because of their defense, but also because they have excellent morale, which is a great stat to have for your line troops. Combat bonus in woods, bonus fighting cavalry, can do Schildtrum. Yeah, they're just a solid unit. Now, the only downside I would say to them is they're a little expensive. Recruitment cost 1,000. I want to say their upkeep is like 288 or something like that, which it's not horrible, but their recruitment time, it takes 3 or 4 turns to recruit them. So that is kind of annoying. But once you get the German military machine going, it's not that big of a deal because you'll be pumping out units left, right, and center. And these are just a great unit to hold the line. Plus, they look really cool too. I love these helmets. And then as always, the Pavises are just so detailed. Look at that like Teutonic flag there, Bavarian. It's so great. This mod is incredible. Now let's move on to 4 of my favorite units for Bavaria, starting with Dienstleute, something like that, infantry, and I love these guys. They're it says they're average. I would say they're good. They're not great, but they're definitely good. Early professional, yeah, good morale, discipline, and training. Higher upkeep, true, but they are feudal units, so they get free upkeep in settlements with feudal buildings. And just look at them. Their pole arms they look so cool. These kind of halberds, short halberds. The plate armor. I love the helmets. They're just a really cool unit. Let's look at their stats. Attack of 6 is not huge, but bonus fighting cavalry, and it's effective against armor because this is a halberd unit meant to crush and pierce armor. Good morale is good. Well, obviously, thus the name. It's not excellent as I would like. Plus, they only have average stamina, but a 16 defense, armor of 12. That's great, especially for early and mid game. And these guys are pretty easy to train too. They're fairly available. So big fan of these guys. Now let's move on to one of Bavaria's best units, one of what makes them kind of famous with the modding community, and that is the dismounted Bavarian Knights. So just look at these guys. They look so badass. Pardon my French or pardon my German, but look at these guys. I love their shields. I love the helmets, the plumes. They just look awesome. And if we look at their stats, attack of 6 is okay, but it's effective against armor because they have these maces, these warhammers. Charge bonus of 3 is fine. Total defense, though, 28. Armor being 18 of that 28, and then defense skill of 6, shield of 4. Just such a good unit. They will hold the line. They will take the walls very well. The other thing I want to mention is they do have good stamina, so they can fight longer than most other units, and excellent morale, of course. They are also feudal, so they get free upkeep in the appropriate settlements. Are they area of recruitment locked? I don't think so. No, not for Bavaria. They are expensive to maintain. 800 recruitment cost is not horrible, but they're I think it's 450 or something for upkeep. So you got to watch out for that, but they do have free upkeep, which is really nice. Now let's get into some assault infantry, and I love how these guys look. These kind of Zweihander, two-handed sword unit. They look very menacing. I'm not gonna lie. The plumes and the two-handed swords, awesome. Let's look at their Beidenhänder men at arms, bonus fighting cavalry because of this long two-handed sword. Excellent morale and good stamina. So again, just a unit that is made for fighting and that is going to fight really well. Attack of 10 is excellent for infantry, plus a charge bonus of 7. That would be a combined 17 is really, really good. And then total defense 25, 17 of that being armor is excellent. No shield, of course, so they do have to watch out for arrow fire a little bit, but with that armor of 17, they don't have to worry too much. These guys are great. The only thing I would say is it does take quite a bit of time to recruit them. I think it's 3 or 4 turns, but definitely recruit them whenever you can, because these guys paired with these guys are a killing machine. What I like to do is have my main line be Pavis Spearmen, and then the flankers being my Zweihander, and then my Bavarian Knights, kind of reinforcing and pushing wherever the line needs reinforcement. The other unit I like to use to hold the line are the Armored Halberdiers, and this is one of the best units in the game. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they're a very good unit. And let's look at these guys. 26 defense, 17 of that being armored. They don't have a shield, of course, because they're using these long halberds. But having long halberds means that they can actually form a spear wall, which is very useful in stopping cavalry and other charges in their tracks. And not only that, but they can destroy the cavalry after that. So bonus fighting cavalry, effective against armor, can form spear wall, and excellent morale. Now, they don't have the good stamina of some of the other units, but being that they're meant to hold the line, they're not going to be running around as much typically, so that's not a huge downfall. So as you can see, the Bavarian roster has very good infantry. A lot of shock infantry, and most of these guys are effective against armor, which is really nice because this is a mod that has a lot of high armor stats. So let's look into the missile units, and As far as strengths and weaknesses, they're kind of similar to Serbia in that they have really great infantry, really decent cavalry, but not the best missile units. Now, they still are better than Serbia because of a couple units, which we'll get to. But let's start with kind of your lowest rung of bowmen, and that is the Landsturm archers, and they are terrible peasant archers, but that's pretty much all you can expect them to be. So melee attack of 1, charge bonus of 1, total defense of 1, anything and everything will kill them. Missile attack of 2 can be useful every once in a while, but other than that, I typically just recruit these guys to kind of fill up my armies when I can't have anything else, and holding garrisons. Poor morale, combat bonus in woods, that's good. Expert at hiding in woods, so yeah, you can ambush a little bit with these guys. And I do like how they look. They're just great designs. But other than that, they are not the best. And I believe their area, yes, area of recruitment 2, recruitable in German and Austrian regions. So moving on to another peasant unit, which is a little more useful, and that is the Landsturm crossbowmen. So they are peasant, they have poor morale, they will break very easily. Total defense of 1 is terrible, obviously melee of 1, charge of 1, but a missile of 6 can actually get some kills, especially on lower to mid-tier enemy units. So I do use these guys every once in a while, but typically I will use other crossbowmen who I'm just realizing now I left out of the roster, so we're gonna have to come back to them when I come back. But anyway, so the Landsturm crossbowmen, recruitable in German and Austrian regions only. Next up, there is another crossbow unit, which is kind of mid-tier for the Bavarians, which I forgot to use, so we'll come back to them. But let's move into the gunpowder units. Bavaria has some halfway decent gunpowder units. First of all, I just love how these German handgunners look. Their armor is sick. Great design again. German handgunners, they are quality superior. I would say good. I don't know if I would go as far to say superior, but they're definitely good. Good morale is very helpful. The firearms will hurt the enemy's morale, which is half of why you get these guys. But the other half is because a missile attack of 17 is really, really powerful. Not only that, but they can also hold their own for a short while in the melee with a melee attack of 5, charge bonus of 3. That's not bad at all. And then the total defense is actually 16, with 11 of that being armor. And that kind of is reflected with their unit design. So they can take some missiles. They can fight in the melee a little bit. But yeah, I love these guys. I recruit them quite a bit. They take 2 turns to recruit, but other than that, they don't really have too many downsides, I would say. Yeah, so let's move on to another German handgunner unit, and that is the Pavis Hook Gunners. So good morale, combat bonus in woods, very similar melee attack of 5, which is halfway decent. Missile attack of 21 is awesome. It can take out heavily armored units and hit their morale. Total defense of 14, most of that being in the shield. So if the enemy has more missile units, I would prefer having Pavis hook gunners, but really they're kind of similar in how both of these units function. They both take 2 turns to recruit. They're both a little expensive, but it's not going to break the bank too much. And yeah, just good gun units. Again, in this mod, any firearm unit is powerful when used correctly. And I like the German ones because of their high defense, meaning if the enemy has archers or other gun units, these guys can actually take a few hits. So that is awesome. And then we'll get to probably the best, or one of the best missile units available to the Bavarians, and that is the German heavy arbalesters. And these guys they're awesome. They're not the best crossbowmen in the game. That would go to your Italian neighbors down south, but they will definitely pack a punch. First of all, they look so cool. I love these breastplates. I love their helmets. Their shoulder pads and sleeves are really neat. Yeah, can use sharpened stakes. Oh, that's the other thing that is very valuable for this unit is they can lay the stakes. The stakes are overpowered in Medieval 2. If you put these at the front gate of one of your settlements, there's very little the enemy can do if they have cavalry to attack. So stakes are always valuable. So that's a great aspect of these guys. Good morale is also good for missile units. A lot of times they don't have good morale. Long-range missiles is very nice. None of your other, if we look at these guys, none of their missiles are long-range. So finally we get someone who can actually shoot far. Combat bonus in woods, can use sharpened stakes. All of that is good. Melee attack of 5 is nice. Charge bonus of 1. I'd like that to be a little higher, but it's okay. They're not meant to be in the melee fight. Missile attack of 13 is very respectable for crossbows. Again, there are better crossbowmen out there, but these guys they'll do enough for you. Total defense of 14 is not wonderful, but 12 of that is armor, which is good. They don't have a shield, which kind of holds them back. If they had a Pavis on their back or something, they would go from being good to being excellent, but yeah, it says they're average. I would say they're good. They're the best you have for long-range missile units, so you definitely want to get these guys whenever you can. Okay, with that, let's go into the cavalry real quick, and then we'll go back and look at another half of the roster for the Bavarians. So, beginning with the mounted sergeants, and this is kind of the lightest cavalry you have. And they're good. I like them. The good morale, powerful charge. They don't have great stamina, not the best morale, but they'll do their job. Their job is to flank, it's to charge, and it's to run down routing units. Don't use them to melee with other cavalry. They will die. They only have a melee attack of 3. But with a charge bonus of 15 for a cheap early unit, that's great. I also just love the design of these shields. I love it. Yeah, so a good unit. I really have no complaints about them. If you know what their limits are, they won't disappoint you. Just don't overestimate what they can do. A unit you can rely on, though, to... Oh, whoops, man, I'm making a few mistakes. I have 2 units of mounted sergeants. There we go. A unit you can rely on a lot of the time are your Ritter Noble Cavalry, and these guys are excellent heavy cavalry. They are feudal, so they get free upkeep. They are very expensive. They have a 600 upkeep and then a high recruitment cost, but they're heavy cavalry. That's to be expected. Excellent morale and powerful charge. What is their charge? It is 18. That will crush pretty much anything other than pole arms that are in position. But other than that, they will just destroy. Attack of 5, and I believe that is armor piercing. I could be wrong, though. Is very respectable. Total defense of 31 is excellent. 22 of that being armor, and then the defense skill and shield. So they're just the tanks of the medieval world. They will always be a force to be reckoned with. They can hold their own with pretty much anything other than, I would say, pole arms or overwhelming cavalry. Yeah, so let's keep the train rolling. Next up, we have a kind of a similar unit, and that is the German Knights. This is kind of a mercenary unit available to a lot of different factions, but since you're a German faction and you can recruit these guys quite a bit, I decided to put them in there. I probably won't include them for the other German factions, but we're going to go over them now. So German Knights, they're kind of in between the sergeants and the Ritter, and they're good. Excellent morale, powerful charge. Yeah, a charge bonus of 18. That is as good as the Ritter Noble Cavalry. Armor of 16, excellent. Defense skill and shield is not wonderful, but it's enough. Attack of 3, I do believe that is armor piercing though, so 3 is low, but again, it's meant to crush armor. The biggest downside, I would say, with these guys is the upkeep cost. The upkeep cost is horrendous. I want to say it's like 785 or 800, something like that. It doesn't show here. But definitely look out for that. You could use them to garrison some of the kind of the lower settlement or the smaller settlements, the forts. But I typically stay away from these guys just because of that upkeep cost, which is unfortunate because they look awesome. They perform pretty well, and they're a good unit. I just don't like how expensive they are. And I believe they're also, yes, an AOR unit, recruitable in regional capitals. True, and they're also recruitable throughout Germany as mercenaries, I believe. So I put them in there because they are an option. Now let's get to two of the best cavalry units in the game. First of all, the gendarmes. The gendarmes, just look at these guys. I mean, do I have to say anything else? They're just walking, moving armor. That's all they are. 27 armor. That's insane. No shield because they don't even need a shield. Defense skill of 7. Total defense of 34 is insane. Attack of 7 is excellent. Charge bonus is 19, which is, again, it's insane. Frighten nearby enemy infantry. Yeah, it would frighten me too, having this charge at me. They will crush anything in their path. Powerful charge, excellent morale. They are exceptional. Late professional troops, exceptional. They are expensive. I think they take a few turns to recruit. I could be wrong on that though. The only downside I can think of them, like even though they're expensive, that's to be expected. The real downside is it's going to be a while in the campaign before you can recruit them. In my campaign, which I'll show you in a little bit, I've been playing for 100 turns or so, and I still have not been able to recruit these guys. So you have to wait a while because this is high medieval era, or late, I should say. But yeah, they're worth the wait. Just excellent. And then last but not least, and I probably should have covered these if in the future with my Württemberg video, but we'll cover them now because I have them. And that is the Banner of St. George. So this is kind of a special unit which is available for German factions when they own a certain region, and that region is, it doesn't say, and I can't remember. But there's one German region where these guys are recruitable from. It's the only region, I believe, and it starts under the County of Württemberg's control. So they're typically the ones to train these guys more, but all the German factions can if they control that region. And they're just an excellent, just exceptional heavy cavalry unit. First of all, they start with 82 men in a unit, which is a lot more than the 62 of the sergeants or the 52 of the written. So, yeah, that alone is worth a note. Inspires nearby troops is awesome. Excellent morale, powerful charge. Yeah, charge of 15, total defense of 32, attack of 5. They are expensive to recruit and also to upkeep, but it's the Banner of St. George. They're some of the best heavy cavalry in the game, so definitely recruit these guys when you can. Okay, so that's it for the first half of the unit roster. Let me get the second half. Okay, so we're back, and I realized that most of the units I was thinking of are mercenary units or artillery, and I'm going to cover both of those in separate videos in the future. So we just have a few more to get through. First of all, we have the kind of mid-tier crossbow unit I forgot about, so let's go back and cover them. Berg crossbowmen, no abilities. They're quality militia, yet they're not great. Melee attack of 3, defense of 5, and all of that. I don't understand this because looking at the unit, they clearly have some level of armor, at least in the helmets, but the stats, the armor is a 0. So missile fire will destroy these guys as well as melee fighting, but a missile attack of 8 is okay. That can actually do a little bit of damage in the right scenario. And they have free upkeep, which is nice, and they're cheap. So a nice unit to kind of support with if you want to kind of save some money. They are an area of recruitment unit though, recruitable in German, Austrian, and Swiss regions, and all of those various factions are able to recruit the Berg crossbowmen, so we'll cover them again briefly in the future. So just 3 more. I forgot these guys as well. I think I picked the Mountain Sergeants twice instead of these guys. But these guys are a nice unit. Mounted crossbowmen, good morale, conform shooting circle, which is nice. Melee attack of 6 is pretty good, especially with a charge bonus of 6. Missile units usually don't have that, so that is nice to have. You can use these guys to flank and charge in, and yeah, these guys look awesome too. I love the feathers and their helmets. Defense 11 is not great, but 9 of that is armor, so they can take a few hits, and a missile attack of 8. So they're decent mounted skirmisher units. I use them to lure the enemy into range of my better ranged units. There we go. Yeah, but definitely a decent unit. They do take a few turns to recruit. I want to say 3 or 4, and they're a bit expensive, but not half bad. And then I decided to cover these guys. They are available to a lot of different Catholic factions, most of the German factions, if not all of them, as well as a few others depending on where the settlement is located. But these are the Teutonic units, and there are 2 of them. First of all, you have just a very basic line infantry, but I like these guys a lot. Let's take a look at their stats. 3 attack, 3 charge bonus. Yeah, it's not great, but it doesn't have to be. They're spearmen. They're meant to hold the line, and with a total defense of 16, they could definitely do that. Good morale is nice. Combat bonus in woods, bonus against fighting cavalry, and can do the Schiltrum. Quality is average. I would agree. However, the nice thing about these guys is they are dirt cheap. I want to say it's like 128 upkeep, which is nothing. So I do like using these guys when money is tight, and I mean, they look awesome. The Teutonic cross will never get old. Yeah, and conform Schiltrum, they will do a good job at holding the line. And then finally, the last German unit we'll look at today are the Teutonic Knights, and of course these guys are rather famous or infamous, and they live up to that. So if we look at that, attack of 7, I believe it's armor piercing, I believe it's a mace. Charge bonus of 18 is excellent. Total defense 26 is very respectable, there we go, especially since 22 of that is armor. Defense skill of 1 is rather odd. Shield of 3 is not great, but they have a powerful charge, of course, and excellent morale, and the nice thing about them is they inspire nearby troops and frighten the nearby enemy. So typically wherever they go, they're just it's like a psychological warfare machine. They frighten the enemy and they encourage your own troops. You'll be hard-pressed to find a better flanking unit as the Bavarians. I love these guys. They are expensive to upkeep. I want to say it's like 455 or something like that. But a great unit nonetheless. Okay, so that's pretty much it for now for the Bavarian units. They do have access to a host of mercenaries, of course, as well as quite a few cannons and whatnot, but I'm going to cover those different cannons at a different time. So last but not least, let's look at my most recent Bavarian campaign. Alright, so here we are in my latest Bavarian campaign, and as you can see, I have united the lands of southern Germany and Austria under this beautiful blue banner. If we look at kind of my diplomacy, I have a lot of allies. I've been allies with the Poles and the Hungarians for pretty much the whole game. I am allies with the papacy, Bosnians, Venetians, blah blah blah. I have no enemies at the moment. I've kind of destroyed most of my enemies at this point. So the County of Württemberg I destroyed, Austrians I conquered, and then I finished off the Hussites once and for all. But you can kind of, so let's actually look at a few things. You can kind of see what I was saying about Munich, Augsburg, and Nuremberg being just financial centers. I mean, that's well over 12,000 a turn with those cities, and then Prague over here is making well over 5,000. So that is pretty nice. And then I wanted to look at, I can't remember. Oh yeah, so it's Stuttgart. This is where you can train the Banner of St. George. And they take 5 turns to recruit. That's kind of annoying. but they're well worth it. I've been recruiting them all over the place. They're in a lot of my fortresses, just kind of as a backup, I guess. My allies, I'm allies with the Swiss, so decided just not to get involved. Let the Swiss be Swiss, and focus on the other German states. So that was, yeah, this was a really fun campaign. I typically get bored at a certain degree, but it's turn 1-1-1, and I am very much enjoying this campaign. So I've pretty much finished it, though. Yeah, I've got a lot of mercenaries, but we'll go over those in a different video. I came down here, took over Slovenia and whatnot, and a lot of this fighting has been done with one general. So you can see this is kind of like my elite army right now. I got those mounted sergeants, and I liked using them because they're cheap, even though money really isn't too much of an issue right now. I've got those Zweihander, these infantry, a lot of heavy... oh shoot, another unit I forgot, the Pavese crossbowmen. Wow, I even said in the video, I was like, I wish these guys had Paveses, and here we are. Well, I forgot the Pavese crossbowmen, but I'm sure we'll cover them again in another video, and you can kind of see here, long-range missiles, good morale, and an 8 defense with the shield makes them a very good unit. And then I've picked up a few other mercenaries on the way, which we'll cover at a different time. But yeah, this is my boy, Sebastian One the Fighter. And yeah, he's just such an excellent general. I've had a good time getting to know him. And actually, I could probably, if we look here, regions controlled 28, I just need 2 more. So, you know what, let's really quick just finish this campaign. I believe we can. I was planning on going over and teaching Milan a lesson, but maybe we'll just backstab my friends here. So yeah, automatically resolve, sure. We'll just walk in for now. We'll come over here, we'll get a boat, take over Venice, clear victory, and there we go. I have taken Venice, which is an island. I love that. You have to get to Venice via boat in this mod, which is great. And we'll sack it. Why not? Victory! There we go. So I have won as the Bavarians. Continue playing. Sure. So yes, a very neat faction. A very solid, just German faction, I would say. The big thing you want to do is first consolidate those rebel regions, and then maybe a nice crusade against the Hussites could be nice, especially to win favor with the Pope before you attack other Catholic factions. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the Bavarians. So yeah, let me know if I forgot anything other than those Pavese crossbowmen, or if there's any, maybe you've played a Bavarian campaign and would like to share some tips. Yeah, other than that, I'm gonna log off here, but next time, I don't know who I'm gonna cover next time. I've thought possibly the Knights Hospitaller, or maybe the Kandarids. We will see, though. Or maybe the Wallachians, actually, with Vlad the Impaler. We'll see. Anyway, I will see you soon. If you like history and like the 13th, 14th, and 15th centuries, I do have a podcast, a history podcast, covering the life of Amir Timur, or Tamerlane as he's often known as, where we look at his life, conquests, character, and his legacy. We're kind of early in on his life right now. Well, not his life, but his reign. So we're in the early 1380s. I'm going to get another episode out later this week. Start off season 3. So check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, I will see you next time.